Welcome back to MMA Al Dente. I am the jerk off who picked Macy Chiasson to defeat Ketlin Vieira. And I'll get to that in a few minutes. But I'm here to recap UFC on ESPN 68, Gamrot versus Klein, I guess. Yeah, look, let me start by talking about Macy, even though shout out to Ludovic Klein on his first UFC main event. But Macy pulled out a minute before she was supposed to walk out. And I'm not going to lie, my instinct is to shit all over her. That's what's going on in my head. But I'm going to resist the urge to do so. I'm aware that she left a sour taste in my mouth as a bloodthirsty MMA fan about to watch the main event and as a degenerate gambler as well. But still, I'd hate to be wrong. I'd hate to be wrong because it would mean she's got something really serious going on medically. That would suck, first and foremost. But also, I'd hate to be wrong and shit all over somebody who has something going on medically. But yeah, she's a girl who's expressed doubt, and she had some mystery illness in the past, and the missing of the weight, and I don't know. There's just enough doubt where it is like I'm as skeptical as you are, but again, I'd hate to be wrong, so I'm going to resist the urge to shit on her. But just know that I'm the kind of person where the urge is there. That's my urge, not to help her and write her a tweet saying, "How are you?" But I want to shit on her. And I'm going to stop myself from doing that. Even though she denied me a chance at winning 57 fucking dollars. Big time. But anyway, yeah, sucks for Erin Blanchfield as well. She definitely was ready to go. And she even expressed in the post-fight interview, look, there's always that thought of maybe the lights will go out and I won't have to fight. And then it happened and I was disappointed. It's cool to hear fighters say that because I know that's what I'd be thinking. I'd be so relieved that I didn't have to go through the fight that night, even though I'm sure she's looking to get right back in there and start fighting somebody soon. She's in great shape, although, whatever. Within a few weeks, she'll have to bounce back and get back into shape. Regardless, it was disappointing for Erin Blanchfield, even if she has a quick turnaround. And I don't know the pay situation or whatever, if there's any compensation, but that's none of my business. All that aside, it sucks for her professionally to miss a few months of her career and for nothing she did wrong. And frankly, for something that she expressed a ton of skepticism and a doubt in Macy Barber for. She thought Macy Barber is not going to make it to this fight. It seemed kind of baseless. Again, there's been horseshit in the past with Macy, but she was right on the money. She was ready to walk out. She had a nice sweat going, all warmed up, and the fight was canceled. It fucking sucks. And again, I don't know what happened with Macy. We'll find out in time, or maybe we won't. To be honest, I expect some more vague horse shit with allusions to something dangerous, a wink and a nod towards something, but nothing definitive. And it's none of our business, but I think the UFC will know exactly what's going on, and how they treat her should show what their thoughts are here. But I have to say, even before the fight was canceled, just from missing weight, I said the UFC is not going to be able to trust her, even if she has a big performance and finishes Blanchfield, and that puts her in the realm of fighting for a title. She's a big enough star, she's a young hot fighter, where she can get herself in that position. But the UFC is not going to want to rely on her because she missed weight. Well, now she pulled out when the music was about to start playing, and I don't think the UFC trusts her. But still, Macy Barber, I don't know what happened, and I hope things are okay. I hope I do hear some sort of serious explanation. I know I did hear she had a seizure. She suffered a seizure. I probably should have led with that. Erin Blanchfield said that. But I still don't feel like I can look at that as a certainty. I'm skeptical of that. So I'll just wait to hear more. more. Maybe get a fucking sip of water. But the main event now will go down as Gamrot versus Ludovic Klein. And in this fight, I was right about this one. Gamrot won. And I'm not going to gloat because, again, if you're somebody who bet on Ludovic Klein, I know what you feel like. And you'll find out when I talk about Macy Chiasson, even though Macy was kind of screwed over with the weight issue herself in that fight. But here, there was no weight issue. There were concerns. Ludovic Klein, in general, the smaller guy, he's fared very well at lightweight, but there was a chance this was going to be a next level kind of situation. And Mateusz Gamrot next leveled him. I thought Klein looked good in round 3 on the feet early, but I didn't think he won that round or any other round. I thought Gamrot got him down rather easily. Only a few times because he had a lot of control time with each takedown and maybe a few minutes in round 3, but 4 or 5 minutes in rounds 1 and 2. And I thought he just really thoroughly out-grappled Klein. Klein is no slouch as a grappler, but Gamrot was too much for him. Too physically strong and too sharp as a wrestler. And also, even though there wasn't that much jiu-jitsu there, Gamrot definitely outworked him in that department as well. I thought it was a great performance from Gamrot. Really thoroughly out-grappled and dominated Ludovic Klein. And from Klein, even though he was next leveled and bullied by a solid lightweight contender, and it definitely takes him down 2 notches, I'd say, as a lightweight, he still didn't get finished. And when there were little pockets of stand-up fighting, he didn't shy away. He was aggressive. He was sharp. I did think he had advantages over Gamrot, but Gamrot was still too good for him. On the feet, look, I just said I thought Klein was sharper. I thought Gamrot handled himself very well, especially in round 3 when I thought the fight could have been drifting away from him. And I think Gamrot felt a little fatigue and said, I don't trust my wrestling right now. And he settled into striking mode. And for a guy who's not nearly as sharp technically as Ludovic Klein, he handled himself very well, switching stances and fighting as a power-based fighter. He was quick and he was competitive with Klein. And I thought that helped him settle into round 3 and reclaim control of it, set up a nice takedown and win that round. So a great performance from Gamrot and a tough performance from Klein, but he wasn't able to turn it into a gritty performance and really do much there. I thought he was kind of shut out. And that is the main event, a 3-rounder. In the co-main, congratulations to these guys on their co-main event, Ramiz Brahimaj submitted Billy Goff. This is an example. I hate to be the guy bragging about his bets when I picked Billy Goff to win, but this was one where I had to play the record of Ramiz Brahimaj. I don't know if you did as well, but I'm sure if you did, it paid off. He got another round 1 submission, and Billy Goff got another technical submission loss. Again, he's got 2 as an amateur, even though one's listed as a TKO. But in both of them, he did not tap, and this is just another example of him not tapping. But this is the first example of him as a pro being submittable. And 10, 11 fights in or whatever, it was a good reminder that there's some vulnerabilities there. Brahimaj was just too much for him. Almost went through him conventionally, taking his back and strangling him. But Goff, I think, was a little too relaxed after shucking off that initial attempt there. After a few minutes of grappling, he got him off his back, and he was too relaxed. Stalked forward, left his neck hanging, and Brahimaj snatched it and made him pay with a guillotine and then a ninja choke and a high elbow and whatever. And he just chained together too many subs and strangled Goff. I thought it was an incredible submission for Brahimaj. And even though he's got a mixed record in the UFC, he's still a young, developing fighter. And here he didn't get to show too many new wrinkles, but just the old ones. And it's another submission victory for Braimai, who's all finishes, almost all submissions aside from one, and almost all of them in round one. So Braimai is a UFC level fighter, and he just showed Billy Goff. But yeah, for Billy Goff, tough as all fuck. This does not hurt his reputation as being a tough guy, and it does not hurt his reputation as being a very exciting fighter, but it hurts his reputation as a prospect. This was a fight that showcased a lot of, a big hole potentially in his game. Dustin Jacoby knocked out Bruno Lopez. It is listed as a knockout. I thought it could have been a TKO, but either way, power got it done. I think a jab initially got the ball rolling, but he just stayed after Bruno and did not let up. Beat him up a lot in the clinch, mixing in sharp uppercuts and forearms and everything, and eventually just clipped him again, and got him rocked to the point where I think a big left hand finished him. Bruno Lopez, he's definitely a capable guy, but he's now got 2 losses, and they're both knockouts in round one. And I'd say there's definitely concerns moving forward with his durability. Dustin Jacoby's a big, strong, dangerous guy. He's not exactly the most potent knockout artist, but he's strong enough to have passed this test. So a great win for Dustin Jacoby. Another knockout, this one in round one. And he's got momentum in general. He's had some tough losses, but in general, he's been definitely a way above average UFC fighter in his late 30s here. Ketlin Vieira beat Macy Chiasson. Yeah, like I said, if you bet on Ludovic Klein, don't feel too bad, because I know exactly what that feels like. This one was a featherweight fight. Whatever. I don't want to lean too much on that, but that was a nice late curveball. But still here, I have to say, I think Ketlin Vieira probably could have won that same exact fight following that same exact blueprint at any weight. I think Ketlin Vieira was just too strong physically for Macy Chiasson. Macy's really strong in her own way, but she is a taller, thinner, skinny, whatever type of girl. And Ketlin Vieira was much more solid. Ketlin Vieira is a really strong grappler too. And she was dead set on getting Macy down. And she knew she had a big advantage there. I think she thought Macy is still dangerous. I mean, that Macy cut open Mayra Bueno Silva in her last fight on the ground from the guard, I believe. But Ketlin knew positionally I have an advantage here. And she did, and that was the story of the fight. I thought Macy battled back and did enough ass kicking in the last round to win it, but that was too little too late. In general, Ketlin Vieira shut her down, and even though it might look close on paper, this was a lopsided fight. So I'd say great win for Ketlin Vieira, because I think Macy, the name Macy Chiasson means something, but it wasn't great because Ketlin Vieira failed her way up to featherweight here. And featherweight, I don't even know what's going on there. But regardless, Macy Chiasson, up against shitty circumstances, was still beaten technically here. And I think, I can dismiss the loss because of the few different asterisks that are there. I knew I was going to have trouble with that word, but I made it. But I think Macy Chiasson was just beaten technically. Again, you get these two girls at any weight. I think Ketlin Vieira wins that fight. And I bet on Macy Chiasson. So imagine what that 15 minutes was like for me. Zachary Reese beat Dusko Todorovic. This one was a very interesting fight. I don't know if I'd call it high level. I think Dusko Todorovic out MMA'd Zachary Reese early. And then Zachary Reese's athleticism outlasted Dusko's MMA. Not that Dusko Todorovic is, fucking Carlos Condit or something, but Dusko did out MMA him. I thought he tried to strangle him. Actually, came close enough early on, but Zachary Reese was too solid as an athlete, and I really think he took over the fight physically down the stretch. And Dusko was not able to impose himself and out MMA him. He wasn't able to go through him like Asmat Bakoyev, and Zachary Reese was too sharp down the stretch. It was close, and Reese needed to show traits as a fighter, and he did. He showed the resilience, the durability in the first place, because he was knocked dead in his last fight. And also resourcefulness. He's a young guy that I still consider an athlete, and more than a fighter or a martial artist, a brawler or a martial artist. I'd say he's more of an athlete on that spectrum, and I have no fucking idea what that spectrum looks like, but I always think those are the three things: brawler, athlete, or martial artist. He's more of an athlete, and he had enough traits there for his athleticism to shine down the stretch. And I thought Dusko, with his experience and some valuable victories in the past, he was just not on that level to go through Zachary Reese to find holes in his game. And he let Zachary take over as a superior athlete. I thought Zachary Reese's technical skills on the feet were there for him, and I thought he won the fight. Alan Nascimento beat Jafel Filho. That was an awesome grappling match. Really fun fight. Jafel Filho kicked Alan Nascimento's ass in round one. Good positional dominance, settled into mount, I think, from the takedown, but then I just remember that guillotine in the end. That wasn't a 10-8 round, but it might have been halfway there, just because of the positional dominance. And I don't mean being on top, I mean being in mount, although it's not like he beat the fuck out of him. But yeah, I thought that was a 10-9 round, and then I thought Nascimento took over the fight positionally down the stretch. He was able to outlast Jafel Filho, in general, out wrestle or out scramble him. And I thought he definitely got the better of the fight in the second and third round. I did bet on the props, a second and third round submission for Nascimento, and I made my peace with it. I lost those bets, but I did think that was a likely path to victory, and especially after round one. But Nascimento still won the fight with control. I thought he looked really solid, and of course, really sound submission defense. He was in another tight guillotine against Tagir Ulanbekov a few years ago, and the guy's really fucking tough to get out of there. He is a jiu-jitsu problem. And in the end, I thought his jiu-jitsu won the fight. He wasn't able to close a show against Filho, but narrowly outpointed him. Great win for Nascimento. And for Jafel Filho, it was impressive that he wasn't submitted, in my opinion, because he's been tapped a few times. But I still think he was outlasted. And that's been another problem of his. But this could have just been a nightmare matchup for him. Jordan Levitt beat Kurt Holobaugh by technical submission, anaconda choke. Kurt did not tap. Kurt is tough as all fuck to get out of there, but this was just a little too much for him. Jordan Levitt, and Jordan said himself he didn't expect to finish Kurt. He said he expected a 3-round decision victory because he was aware Kurt had only ever been tapped once against Shane Burgos. But Jordan Levitt was able to take him down, I think, pretty easily. Slammed him once or twice, showed some physical dominance there. And then when Kurt got a little too comfortable trying to get up or whatever, he laced up that anaconda choke and was just next level dangerous. Jordan Levitt is a really good submission artist. Really good. And he was able to go through Kurt pretty quickly. So, great win for Jordan Levitt. My estimation of his submission prowess has only increased here, even though I really respected it to begin with. I just thought Kurt would be really tough to get out of there. And for Kurt Holobaugh, he's still one of my favorite fighters in the UFC. I love his story. I love his whole career. He's got so many great, valuable wins in and out of the UFC. But he is 30 fuck years old. And this is much better than getting knocked out, no doubt about it, getting submitted, even though he went unconscious, but still not the greatest look for Kurt Hollabaugh. He was next leveled here against Jordan Levitt. He didn't look as bad as Matt Wyman did, but Kurt is still out of his prime. Balaji beat Michael Aswell. I was not able to comment on this fight, but I did think it was a very similar matchup to Markel Maderos, only with a lot shittier circumstances for Aswell being a smaller guy, probably weaker guy. And even though he's tough, and I think he's probably tougher than Maderos or Oki or anybody else, I think Aswell is incredibly tough, but he was also on short notice taking this fight. So he was really up against it in a lot of ways. And I thought, kind of like Maderos, he's not the most resourceful guy, not the greatest submission artist, Michael Aswell, where he can make Oki pay like Chris Duncan did. And in the end, Aswell gave one hell of a fight. I did think he won round one, even though it was close. But in the end, Balaji Oki's power and cardio and the rest of it helped him win this fight. But mainly his power, I think, was the difference. He was beating up Michael Aswell. I thought he was beating him up early, and then Aswell took control of round one. But then in rounds 2 and 3, Aswell was just not in his greatest shape, and Oki was firing on all cylinders. Really sharp, too physically strong, and too solid athletically for Aswell to mix things up if he even had that in him. And on the feet at range, Oki was too sharp, too powerful, and again, in too good a shape. Really won rounds 2 and 3 definitively. And again, round 1 I thought was pretty close. Could have gone either way, but I gave it to Aswell because I bet on Aswell as well. But great debut for Aswell. Really thought he looked great. And for Oki, he was up against some shitty circumstances here, dealt with a nice curveball, even if it was favorable. Certainly the odds makers considered it favorable. But he made good on his 5-1 promise or whatever. I thought he looked really good there. And again, it's good for him to go 15 minutes as well at the UFC level. Speaking of which, Alice Ardeleon beat Hayani Dos Santos. This was one where Hayani Dos Santos might have been considered underrated because she was kind of robbed, at least halfway there, in both of her UFC losses. But this was the most definitive fight she's been in the UFC, and it was the most definitive result. Alice Ardeleon really kicked her ass. I thought Hayani was a little sharper in the first half of the first round, but that was it. After that, I thought Alice dictated the whole fight with her power. I think Alice settled into the fight and said, I can walk forward on this girl. And she was really comfortable. And I think Alice also figured out pretty quickly she can't walk forward on me. I think power was the difference, kind of like with Balaji Oki. And Alice really beat up Hayani. Hayani did not stop fighting. I thought she still looked, tough and gritty in the end, but she was not able to turn things around. She still might have been technically sharper than Alice Ardeleon, but her footwork was not there for her. And again, her toughness was the only thing there for her. She was able to stand up to the power, but not avoid it. And Alice really beat her up. Good win for Alice Ardeleon, even though Hayani's probably going to be cut here. That was a fight where maybe either girl would have been cut. The loser would have been cut. And Alice Ardeleon beat her up. And in the end, because it was such a shitty fucking card to begin with and a shitty fucking event to end with, that was the best fight of the night. And each girl got 50 grand. Nice little send-off, perhaps, for Hayani Dos Santos. But a great reward for Alice Ardeleon in the lowest profile fight, the first fight. And she beat up Hayani enough, even though it was a 3-round victory. I thought she was up 3 rounds. It still was a good enough fight for her to get 50 grand there, or whatever they got. So yeah, overall, a dog shit event. Again, my instinct is to shit on Macy, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to keep letting you know that that's my instinct, because that's the kind of guy that I am. But some interesting results. Some things we'll take with us moving forward, but mostly this is a forgettable fight night event that absolutely fucking sucked. Dick. Like, share, subscribe, all that horse shit, and check out my other videos.